Man, it is Tuesday after a great weekend. It's a great day to be a Buckeye. Welcome into the best damn pond to land. Chad Stryker, Dan Dijak. Like and subscribe. I think you always say punch the like button. I don't know what it
Smash
is.
it.
Smash the like button and the
Smash that
subscribe
like
button.
button. That's what the kids say.
Yeah, appreciate you guys joining us today. So, Dan, how are you? What's new?
I'm great, man. I am fresh off of a rabbit hole journey
Okay.
with a bunch of Michigan trolls on Twitter, X, whatever we're supposed to call it now. It'll forever be Twitter to me, just like the Indians will always be the Indians. It's always going to be Twitter. But to the guy that made a comment about my plastic ass dentures, dude, come on. These are solid porcelain. I splurged for the upgrade, unlike the chicken and hot dogs you serve at your recruiting table.
Okay, there we go. Shots fired. Okay. Yeah. Well, I learned something. I didn't know that you had porcelain. So
Every tooth in my mouth has been replaced.
okay, I have several, but not all. So
Did it during COVID, incognito.
Sweet. So wanted to make an announcement about Friday's show. We have another pod mashup coming up. Actually, we have two, but this Friday we have Luke from the Tailgate. He does a lot of he covers a lot of national college football stuff. Like, it's not just Buckeyes, it's everywhere. So he's coming on the show. He's joining us. We're going to talk about several national topics, but just to prime you guys, we asked him to give us his perspective on what the national college football folks think about Michigan's cheating with Connor Stallions. So that's coming, as well as what the SEC in particular feels about Ohio State's NIL and our war chest that we just keep building and building and building. So those are a couple topics coming on Friday. So watch for that. More media will be coming out about it, but Luke does a great job. We're excited to have him on. Really great guy too. He's just like a super cool dude. So
yeah, and if you haven't checked his show out, I think it's called the Power 5 Tailgate. If I'm not mistaken.
The Power 5 Tailgate. Yeah.
But the reason we think Luke can speak to some of these national questions is that he literally brings on somebody from every fan base onto the show and talks to them about their season and their team and their traditions and stuff like that. So, he'll bring on another pod guy, another pod person from, let's say, Baylor, right?
Yep.
And he hits. I mean, he gets obscure too, man. He gives everybody attention, and it's really cool, man. If you're a fan of college football, it's a fantastic show to check out.
Yeah, I just think Luke does a great job too, and he's does a good job at not being biased. I have never picked up anything about a specific conference or anything that like he might favor. So, and I'm excited to have him on. I'm excited just to chat through these things. And then coming off the weekend, big weekend for Ohio State. Lots of great visitors. I rattled through them on Friday. But as you knew, Dan, and we kept as quiet as we could about Fahim Delane. So Fahim Delane commits 4-star / 5-star safety out of good counsel. Some good players have come out of good counsel in the past. So a couple. So Tim Walton out here doing his thing. OG Walt. He's a top 3. Delane's a top 3 safety in the class. I love it. I mean, I said on Friday, got to have him. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, we got him.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen him rated as high as 31.
Yeah, correct.
So when you say force, borderline 5-star, he's the new safety that everybody wants to get. He's 6'2", 6'3", depending on the reports, anywhere from 190 to 210. I think I heard Juck mention this morning that, he's got a frame that you could see him taking the Sonny Styles path, but I don't think that's the intention with him is, keep him where he's at. And Berm said he had the the body of a Ronnie Hickman and the skill set of a Lathan Ransom. So
okay. Well, Hickman's doing well for the Browns, but I to compare him to Sonny Styles is tough because I felt like you and I have talked about this before. Styles, like if he ate a cheeseburger, he went up to 230 pounds like instantly. Yeah. So I mean, Delane maybe could fill out a little bit more up to 215, but it just depends on what, like what his, I'm sure his frame could hold it. And maybe that's more the modern linebacker wave, but I'd like to keep him at safety personally.
Yeah,
but
no, I think the intention is 100% to keep him at safety. I mean, let's be honest. Sonny played safety at 235 last year. He told us as much.
Yeah, and then I know we were messaging offline and with Chuck, and there's a lot of buzz around Andrew Stargell. I would say that you're not going to hear anything on him until July 3rd. Until further notice is given, but that's my expectation. I want to get him. I really like him. Right tackle in the class. I was really bummed yesterday when Fanuku committed to Missouri. Now I know Missouri handled this in the situation that it was in the bowl game, but that one bothered me a little bit. I just felt like that almost came out of nowhere. Maybe did it surprise you?
I mean, I think I recall that being mentioned as a possibility for him, and that Missouri's building a really solid program.
Yeah,
they're
a good football program.
Yeah, no, and I really, really like their coach.
Yeah.
Listen, man, like silly season. We say it on every episode at this point of the year, right? I mean, Steve Wiltfong went from highly favoring Ohio State after his OV to crystal balling him to Texas Tech after that OV to the kid committing to Missouri within 48 hours of that RPM.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys that are getting paid to do these predictions anymore, man, I don't envy the position that they're in because there's no more predictability or rhyme or reason to what these kids are doing.
Well, you know my personal feelings on national beat writers such as Steve Wiltfong. So if I'm gonna, I will just say if I have not heard it from Bill Kurelic, who's incredibly conservative, very positive guy, he's very positive about the Ohio State commits. Maybe a little bit too much sunshine, but he's also very conservative. So if he hasn't crystal balled it, I don't put it, I don't put any stock in it. So, one thing I wanted to do, Dan, and we knew about this. So, we have one particular viewer that loves to, I don't know, just have is just having a bad month. I don't know. So, I cut a clip and it's out there for you, XY5881 or whatever your username is, of us on Friday talking about Fahim Delane. I couldn't tell you that we knew he was going to commit. We had a lot of intel that said he was going to do that. And so we discussed it as much as we could on Friday inside of the 7-minute mark. I said Fahim Delane's name when we went through the official visit list. I talked about how he was a must get. I mentioned that I was hoping that Dietrich Sanchez would be here to help work through that commitment. And I said his name again. So, if you take exception with that, or you think that I don't know football, that's great. You're allowed to have that opinion. But I would be very cautious about what you say to someone who's been to over 100 Ohio State football games in person at the Horseshoe.
This is the same guy that got upset that I said the 2012 team had no business going undefeated.
Oh yeah. That guy was really mad about that.
He was furious. I mean, Oh my God, we only went to overtime against Purdue and had to get there by converting a 2-point conversion with our backup QB. That's the definition of having no business of going undefeated.
Yeah. Look, I appreciate everybody that watches our show, and you're more than welcome to comment. That's fine. That's why the comments are turned on. But the fact remains that you were incorrect. And if you really were listening to the show, and you can go out and find this snip, it's about 1 minute and 32 seconds of us discussing him inside the 7-minute mark, him being Fahim Delane of the show, when you complain that we never talked about him or said his whole name, which is false. So make sure you come with actual articulate and correct information if you're going to come at me, because I will prove you wrong. Anyways, so there you go, Dan.
Not only was he wrong, but he forgot to put his comment in the form of a question. So he would have
Yeah,
lost money
true.
if it was Jeopardy.
Yeah, true. So I wanted to ask you around Fahim Delane, do you think that impacts Trey McNutt, good, bad, otherwise?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, the assumption, or Fahim has been he's more or less been an assumed guy. Like the assumption's been that we were going to get him.
Yeah,
I mean, he's been
I struggle
crystal
with
ball.
that
He's been
assumption
crystal
too.
ball to us for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That relationship started over 2 years ago with Eliano.
Yeah.
So I don't know why this would suddenly make it murkier for Trey McNutt. I mean, we are getting up there at the safety spot. I mean, you've got Deshaun Stewart, you've got Cody Haddad. So we've now got 3 legitimate safeties in the class, but it's a safety heavy class.
Yeah.
It's not, we pretty much have 3 safety types on the field at all times. I mean, I would argue that Hancock, when he's playing slot corner, he's really playing as a safety in
nickel safety.
Defense, So, and then if we bring one of those linebackers off and put another guy on the field, so it's not like these guys aren't going to get on the field and aren't going to play. So no, I don't think it hurts. I think there's a lot more to the McNutt recruitment. I mean, there's stuff there with the mom, and Trey being referred to as a legacy, and history there with his dad, and I just, not all Ohio kids go to Ohio State.
No,
some kids want to leave.
Yeah, and I mean, I was told too that he just kind of grew up differently. I think he spent time in Tennessee and other,
he was in Knoxville until he was 5.
Yeah, so like he grew up, his youth was there, and so I'm not poo-pooing that McNutt will be in the class. I just am not super confident right now.
But here, let me say one thing about his recruitment, though. I can't tell you how many times I've had to clarify this for people, but they're like, why isn't he scheduling an official? Why aren't we getting an official? Why is he not doing an OV to Ohio State? Trey McNutt made it very clear a while back that he was going to announce his official visits one at a time in the week leading up to that official visit.
Correct.
He has not released a list.
Nope.
He has not said these are the 5 or 7 or 8, because now you can do as many as you want.
Correct.
So just everyone needs to chill out when it comes to the official visits. I will be really surprised if he's not in Columbus on the 21st.
Yeah, I'd be shocked too, because that's a huge weekend, and I know that Ohio State, we talked about this last week, they're trying to get all of their official visits that they can done in the month of June. So, and camp season's also going on, which is great too. So, other than that, over the weekend, Quincy Porter Jr. was here, or not Jr. Quincy Porter, the wide receiver, and Andrew Stargell were here. I know Stargell, we already kind of talked to him about that. I'm going to go ahead and say, personally, I think they both end up in the class. And I know that might seem a little crazy. What do you think?
You said Stargell and Porter?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I think so. I'm a little worried that Stargell overplays his hand. I don't know. I know you referenced July 3rd. I hope that the staff will wait that long, but things can change quick. I mean, we just saw 3 guys on our board on the offensive line commit elsewhere this week.
Yeah.
Over the course of 24 to 36 hours. So what does that do to the mindset in the room, right?
Yeah.
When they're going over their board. So, they might try to start to force some hands here, especially if somebody's a heavy lean. It's a tough spot to be in, man, because this recruiting thing didn't exist when I was, growing up.
Yep.
It was
very regional.
Yeah, it was regional. There was no internet, there was no huddle to get your film out there. if somebody didn't see you play in person, they didn't see you for the most part. Especially, my ticket through college was hockey. If they didn't see you play lot, in person, they weren't going to be interested in you. Now it's just there's so many options out there, and then with these kids getting paid to take visits, and then just the experience, a lot of these kids, I think I heard a recruit recently say that it was his first time on a plane was coming to Ohio State or somewhere. I mean, these kids, a lot of these kids have never been anywhere outside of a 5-mile radius of their home.
Yeah.
I
can understand that. I was kind of thinking back because one of the more interesting recruitments I remember was when my brother, Bowling Green, came down to watch him play on a Friday night. And I remember talking to the guy that was down here, assistant of an assistant coach kind of thing. And he's like, man, this is out in the middle of nowhere. He's like, I had to have AAA like highlight the map, and I just remember that bits like little bit of that conversation about how like he thought in my high school was tiny, and in the middle of nowhere. So anyways,
my brother, going into his senior year of high school, he had a full ride to Vanderbilt to play quarterback. He played up in Brooklyn, right outside of Cleveland. And then he blew out his knee the first game of his senior year, and they yanked it. And then he went to university school over in Hawken, Pepper Pike area for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And he was still young. It was his 13th year. He was a prep kid, but he graduated when he was 17. So he was the same age as everybody else. But, they had a running back on their team who was getting pretty, recruited pretty heavy. And they sent an 8mm cut up to the Vanderbilt coaches. And they were like, man, who's that quarterback? And it was my brother. And, they tried to recruit him again, and my dad told him to go pound sand. But my point to that is that, they had to request an 8mm cut up of the running back to even see him.
Yep. I get it. So sticking with the 25 class, and then we have another topic. We'll get into the 2 with 2026. But anybody else you're feeling good about? I really liked a lot of what I saw. I liked the Vernell Brown stuff, which if you'd have asked me last week, I think we talked about it, I wasn't as confident, I guess, because he's a legacy at Florida.
I feel really good about Vernell Brown.
Okay.
I feel really good about Justin Hill.
Okay.
I feel good about Brew.
Well,
and
I feel better because D. Sanchez says she thinks that Brew will be in the class.
Yeah, and then I feel good about David Sanders. I think Odom on the defensive line is a heavy lean to us.
It looked like it. I liked what he had to say coming out of his OV.
Yeah. And then, this all sounds like wishful thinking, but we're legitimately in on all these players, so the Decorian Moore kid out of Texas. I think that relationship with Devin Sanchez is going to have a huge influence on his decision.
I do too. So I've been, we've talked about this. I'm really high on Decorian Moore. I actually think he's probably the best wide receiver in the class. I'm not as high on Jamie French, which again, everybody knows. So yeah, I'm with you on that list. I would feel better about Decorian Moore if he would commit soon. So that would
I'm hearing July.
Yeah, seems to be the trend. I think before everybody's conditioning starts and all the camps end and the 7-on-7s end, kind of in that little hiatus window there. Okay, so Dan, this is you sent me this topic, and man, what a good topic, because we've been really focused on 2025 quite a bit. Do a quick look ahead. Do you think, in regards to quarterbacks, the 2026 is what you would call a throwaway year? Like truly because of what we have coming in, is it a throwaway year?
I think it's a limbo year for the quarterback that commits. And here's the thought process, right? Let's say for a second that Will Howard wins the job and plays the majority of the snaps this year.
Okay.
I would be willing to say that Devin Brown is gone at that point.
Fair.
He's got 2 years left.
Yep.
At that point, I would not blame the kid. I would not hold anything he said against, that he said in the past against him. It is what it is. It's a business. But if Will's the guy this year and Devin transfers, then that means you've got 2 years of Julian, right? Julian's probably the guy next year. And it's his second year, which means he's got, a third year left behind that. You've got Tavian coming in next year, which means that he wouldn't be playing until his third year. Right? So where's that leave the quarterback in the 26 class? He's not getting on the field for at least 3 years.
So your assumption, I want to make sure I understand. So your assumption is Julian Sane would start the 2025 and 2026 season. So then St. Clair comes in 2025, sits in 2026, redshirts, starts as a redshirt sophomore in. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. So he would go in 27. Now, if he's one and done like a Dwayne Haskins, 1 year starter and done. But I don't, I think if Dwayne Haskins had to do it over again, he probably wouldn't have done that.
No, I don't think he
would have benefited from another year of development. But then what would that have done for Justin Fields? So that's my assumption is that Julian starts 25 and 26, Tavian starts 27 and most likely 28. The 26 kid's just in limbo.
Yeah. And, I want to give credence to Juck too for the talking to Aaron Nolan's dad. Like we're talking about Julian saying like Aaron Nolan's not even here.
Yeah. I mean, all reports are that it's not a shot at Air at all.
No.
Air's practice performance and struggles in practice have been well documented. He definitely had his best moment of the spring in the spring game, which tells you that he's got the ability.
When the lights come on.
Yeah, but you and I both know Ryan Day's never going to go with a guy that doesn't practice well.
Yeah, there was a few years ago.
Except for maybe this year.
Yeah. A few years ago, when Chris Olave was here, he put out a tweet because it was like a grainy video of him and Justin Fields working that like short corner route in the end zone where like he tiptoes and Fields puts the ball basically over the front pylon and he catches it, and then they did it in the Michigan game and something to the effect that no one ever sees what you do in the dark until it becomes light, and I was like, whoa. So but it was something that they had practiced over and over and over and over to perfect. So I'm with you. Ryan Day probably wouldn't do something, like you got to practice like you mean it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think if it plays out the way I just described, I think the 26 guy's kind of in limbo.
Yeah, fair enough.
Now, which makes the 27 guy that much more important. And this Brady Edmonds that out of California, he's apparently, the guy. He's him. He's 6'5", 200. He's going to be the number one rated quarterback in the class.
Did you say California?
He's from Huntington Beach, California, but his grandfather is from Cuyahoga Falls.
Okay.
So his family has grown up huge Ohio State fans.
Okay.
And he put down, like, when he wrote down his goals as a freshman in high school or at some point in time, like, one of the 3 goals he had was to play football at Ohio State. So we've offered him already. I think he's going to be coming out to camp here pretty soon. But he's got a chance to be the number one guy overall in the class. So now what would happen? So what would throw a wrench into that? What would make the 26 guy relevant?
26 guy relevant would be if two things. One, you lose Julian or Air, forcing Saban or St. Clair into like action immediately, or let's say Devin wins the job this year, doesn't go pro, comes back.
That's what I was getting at. Is let's say Devin wins the job and leads us to a natty. I don't think he declares after 1 year as a starter. That would essentially be doing what Dwayne Haskins did,
unless he throws for 60 touchdowns.
Yeah, right.
Like Haskins 50.
Or which could make Air and or Julian take off if they're not guaranteed something going into their. But they'd only be going into their second year. But still, that could throw a wrench into it and could make the 26 quarterback relevant.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, and I want to I don't want to just be dismissive of the 26 quarterback because I really like Diabell.
I do too, but where's he fit in that scenario?
Anywhere I need him to fit.
We
can't take everybody.
You're always one play away from starting, but
yep.
I
that's the hard thing with quarterback. There can only be one, and we can't take them all. And and definitely been burned a couple times recently where they've had to go to plan B in the recruiting game. And I'm with you. I could see this. There's 1,000 different scenarios, but the more I watch Tavian St. Clair, man, my goodness, what a prospect. And as soon as you were telling me about the measurements of that of Brady, I 6'5", 205, he's a freshman or whatever, I immediately, and I'm old, guys, thought of Todd Marinovich. I don't know why. Huntington Beach, California. Just the whole thing screamed Todd Marinovich.
Robo QB.
Yeah, so I'm sure he's not. I'm sure that the things will be much better for him. But just to share where my mind went, which went to Todd Marinovich. So there's 1,000 things that could go wrong there, man, and there's a lot that could go right. But the other thing I could see happening too would be, what if Tavian St. Clair, and this is a big what if because freshman quarterbacks, it's tough. What if he just flat out beat out Julian Sayin and Aaron Nolan for the job?
Well, then he'd be a 3-year starter.
Yeah.
It still makes the 26 guy wait until he's
a redshirt sophomore
or third year redshirt sophomore.
Well, that's what we're asking Tavian St. Clair to do right now.
We are, and that in and of itself is going to get dicey.
I'm just putting that forward. Like, if we're asking Tavian St. Clair to do it, you're not going to ask your next one to do it too. So Diabell or whoever it is. So there's a lot of big what ifs in there, man. I'm throwing a wrench in your ideas, I think.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of things that can happen there, but you just brought up a great point. Is like, if Julian's the guy, he's got to stay for 3 years.
Yes, correct.
That means Tavian does not start until his third year on the team.
Yeah. 100%. That's where I'm at with this. And that's what kind of concerned me too. But so I wanted to ask you, I know that you mentioned Devin Brown and Will Howard, and so
hey, before you get into that, who did they piss off in the Ohio State social media department?
Who?
Devin and Will.
I don't know.
They had to piss somebody off to post that picture of them at practice.
That was bad, wasn't it? With the crop tops.
Those were not flattering at all.
Yeah. I guess they were trying to show how hard they had been working, because they were obviously all, all sweated up and everything. But yeah, I don't know. And I'm gonna take a real brief pause. So the reason I brought up Devin and Will was to talk about Julian and Aaron, and I know that we chopped this up a little bit in text messages with Juck, and Juck rightly had Aaron Nolan's dad on, and he kind of talked about the Bucknuts forum where it came from. But This goes along with, our commenters and stuff, guys. If you don't know, don't put it out there. Dan and I don't do that. We don't do it. And
we had that story going into our last episode.
Right. And we didn't air it.
We didn't even mention it.
No. We talked about it offline, but we held off because if you don't know, don't put it out in the ether, man. These are kids. They're 18. I'm a man. I'm 40, to quote Mike Gundy, but like y'all, come on, man. There's enough going on with kids and pressure and Ohio State and quarterback, and you don't need to bring up false narratives for 10 seconds of clout. Just don't do it. I can't tell you guys what to do and what not to do, but please just think about what you're doing.
Yeah. Shame on Bucknuts. Here's the part. So here's the deal. That story was behind a paywall,
right?
In a section that they call the boarding house, and it's like got a huge disclaimer that it's basically full of rumors, innuendos, and nothing's been confirmed.
Correct.
Do not take it for. I mean, it more or less says this is for entertainment purposes only. It doesn't say that verbatim, but that's basically the way the disclaimer reads. Having said that, and my boy Chris Drew talked about this yesterday, like that was not written as just some rumor that somebody was throwing against the wall. That was written as a professional article. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it was a well-written, piece.
Yep.
So I know Pat Murphy came out with a statement and more or less said, hey, we apologize for this for happening. We're not going to go into details to how it happened, but, we'll just leave it at that, it was not, he said it wasn't me and it wasn't so-and-so. It wasn't any of our writers.
There was a little blurb yesterday. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dan, but I'm going to ask you if you think this is possible. Do you think it was that Andrew Smith cat?
I've got no idea. I don't know why. I mean, the poster's name had to have been visible.
Yeah.
So why hasn't it somebody said who it is? I have my theories. It's really tinfoil out there.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go into it.
All right.
Certainly
I just wondered because he started blocking everybody again, because now he apparently fake works for Rivals and not 11 Warriors. So.
Well, his profile actually says 11 Warriors and Rivals.
Oh.
The guy's a clown. The guy is an absolute clown. And I don't understand why people follow him. I don't understand why people don't just block the kid and make him irrelevant, because nothing he does is original. Nothing he does is his. He literally copies and pastes other people's posts and presents it as his own.
Well, did you see lately he's been using Tony Gerdeman's pictures even?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pictures and text. Like he doesn't alter it at all. Now, let's be honest, okay? Information is information. There's only so many ways you can spin information, but to blatantly copy somebody's text and their photos and then present it as your own, that's just douchery at its finest.
Yeah. Yeah. Some things I know too about people that have asked me questions about it. So
yeah. And that's who they were talking about, right? Did you
confirm? Yes. So anyways, I just was curious if because you said it was well written and stuff. So I mean, I'm sure but
you got to remember, this kid doesn't write his own stuff.
Oh, that's true.
So we have no idea what his writing skills are like, because nothing he puts out there is original.
Yeah, we don't know. Anyways, it was just that was true tinfoil hat stuff. Like, what if it was Andrew Smith? So anyways, continue, Dan. I know that I just wanted to say how much you and I'm sure you echo this sentiment, appreciate Juck, because Juck went into the root of it and got to the bottom of it and made sure that got squashed for this kid. So Juck, shout out to you, buddy. We appreciate you, man.
Proud of you, brother. Happy for you too, man. Juck got a mention from 24/7.
He did, yes.
He got a mention on a national board, man. And and he went into this on his episode this morning, and good for him. I got a kick out of it. And it was funny, because he's like, I showed it to my family, and they're like, okay. And I was like, man, I got a 15-year-old daughter. I can completely relate to that.
Yeah.
but for those of us that are in this world and those of us that aren't, paid and part of some big national platform or regional platform or a school platform, like we're just doing this for, shits and giggles and to have fun.
Talk
It was
ball.
really freaking cool to see him get that recognition, man. That was a cool moment. I told him, I said, listen, man, don't forget about, you said, don't forget about us when you're famous. I said, listen, just, I'm not too proud to fetch coffee. Just let me hire a hot intern. Like, you know what? Good for Juck, man.
Yes.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm so excited for him. And like the thing about it is, and you know this, like he's actually just a really great guy too.
Oh, yeah.
Like behind the scenes, we have we literally have a text thread between the three of us and a DM thread between the three of us, and like he's just a really great guy. And like that's I'm excited for him. But I just wanted to give him a shout out just for like, because he did real journalism and he went and got to the bottom of it and he talked to the kid's father and everything got put to bed. Thank goodness. And
what a professional and class act too.
Yeah.
Prentice
Jr. Yeah. Prentice Jr.
Prentice Nolan. I had no idea he was a coach, I love the fact that he said, he goes, I ain't coaching my kid in high school. I coached on a daddy ball team once. Oh,
that's hard.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, class act, professional. You kind of felt a little bit of the angst and frustration in his voice, which made it very real.
Yep.
And it's just unfortunate that an article like that came out and just went wildfire as quick as it did.
Yeah. And, you and I know this. In the summer, it can be hard for content. It hasn't been that hard because the OV season in June is really nice, like because it gives us a lot of content to talk about. But yeah, it's a shame that happened, and it really bothered me, like at a core level. And you're a father. You have a 15-year-old. I have, I'm a father. I have 2 kids. My son is, pretty talented at baseball. I'll just leave it like that. And so I could only imagine him being in college and then something like that happened. I would be irate. And so his dad handled it really well.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I just want to give a shout out to Smithville White. Good job, guys. They played a really good season. So I appreciate you.
Is it over?
The 6U is over. So 8U tournament's ongoing. So they did pretty well. We had a lot of young kids this year. So but yeah, good job, guys. And they got their ceremonial medals and all that stuff. So proud of them.
Cool.
Yeah. And proud of Hadley, my daughter, for trying something new. She'd never played before. So.
And she made it through the whole season?
She did. She made it through.
Awesome.
Yep. She I don't think she'll play again. She wasn't having the fun that my son was having. But it's really easy to have fun when you're doing well too. It's just like it's easy for us to really love and support our team when you're doing well. It's a little harder when you've lost. So or are losing, or if you're headed towards a 7-5 season and sanctions. So Michigan. I digress. I'm gonna do a Dave Rubin and or whatever his name is and digress. Dan Rubin.
Michigan
Yeah.
Trolls.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dan, anything else, man? I think that'll do it for me.
No, man, I'm good. I'm, there's more camps this week. We got another, OV weekend coming up. We'll probably talk about that a little bit more on Friday before we dive into things with Luke, and just appreciate sport.
Yep. I'm excited to have Luke on, and for our commenter that didn't like all our yakking, we're still going to yak because that's what we do. So anyways, you guys have a good week. I appreciate y'all. enjoy what you guys bring to us, and we appreciate all the support. And we'll see you guys on Friday for Buckeye Friday. Until then, as always, take care. Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.